tuned part by Lex the Hexmaster and the Shadow Army. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What up, y'all? We are back. Shout out to the sponsors, as always, Lex the Hexmaster and the Shadow Army. We are back. There is a new YouTube stream up if you guys are tuned in on the website, so make sure you guys go peep that out, share it out, tell everybody, tell your family, your friends, because it's about to go down, man. We got some special guests.
We sure do.
Legendary guests, if you will, man. Let's just jump on into it. Give it up. The legendary Tony Schiavone and our good friend Dirk Manning. What's up, guys?
What is up?
Hello. How is everyone, man?
I'm thinking that you might have done me dirty and not realized it, because by playing the Haunted Highons theme song, I know I'm going to get an email or text message from Tony tomorrow, like, how come Butts and Seats doesn't have a theme song?
All right.
What's up with that? That'll be the next evolution.
We're just trying to help move it
I'm
along,
not like
man.
that. I'm not like that at all. Dirk is full of shit. Okay. But I think that's common knowledge between all of us. We all know that.
That is fair.
I mean, that's kind of his
It's
job.
the only way I could have spent a year working on a graphic novel about Tony's life is to have that very particular trait.
That is awesome, man. I fucking love it. That is the best way to start out this show, man. This is where we're going, man. I love it. So, I mean, first of all, I want to say welcome to Replicon Radio, Tony Schiavone.
Well, it's great being here. It really is. I'm excited about doing yet another one of these with Dirk Manning. I was wondering when I can do one with like Drina or like, somebody that's relevant. So but no, really, it's great being with you. And we're really excited about what the remainder of 2021 is going to bring because, Comic Cons are coming back and we're excited about that. And I'm excited because this is, I had said years ago when Conrad Thompson and we do our podcast with, I told Conrad, I said, if we ever get a chance to do Comic Cons, I want to do them. I want to do them all. And he said, well, we'll see. And then of course, this whole thing with Dirk fell in my lap and it's just kind of a natural for me. And so I'm really excited about being here with you to talk about that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we're excited to have you. And Dirk, welcome back, my friend. It's it's been a hauntingly long time since we spoke. When I saw how long it's been since we last spoke, I was very taken aback and the evolution that you guys have gone through. Not evolution, because evolution continued. How the show's progressed and all the things you do. So it's very good to be back, and it's good to be back talking about Comic Cons again.
Yeah,
Astronomicon was the last show I attended before everything went on hiatus. So now to be back with Tony Schiavone, what better thing could you ask for besides anything?
Right. I agree, man. Yeah, it's crazy. I actually, before this was even planned, I didn't know, but all of a sudden in my memories and stuff, it's like we're promoting when we had you on the first time, which was literally 5 days from now, it'll be 4 years ago.
Jeez. We've been doing it.
We were promoting the one shot for Haunted Highons that you really didn't tell us too much about.
Right. Because that was going to debut at New York Comic Con that October.
Yeah.
So I had to be very hush about it. So we can be a little more free about stuff now, about Butts and Seats and some of the other stuff coming out. But 4 years. So congratulations, guys, on your continued success.
All right, we're still here somehow.
Thank you.
Right. We're still here, but we are. But yeah, so I definitely we like to, when we have people on, especially the first time, so I'm directing this at you, Tony. We really like to get to know people. Obviously, we're going to talk about Butts and Seats, and people can definitely get to know you in there. But we just kind of a brief history, you growing up, as a child, I guess a brief summary of kind of how you got into wrestling and how in the world, most people don't aspire to be a commentator. If they're fans of wrestling, they probably want to be a wrestler or something like that.
Right.
How did your kind of journey into that kind of begin for you?
Well, oddly enough, this is kind of what the graphic novel is about. It's about my journey from being a fan of wrestling and being a fan of baseball into my professional life, and then of course getting into pro wrestling. I can tell you this: I always wanted, from my very first memory, and I'm really thinking about 4th or 5th grade. I always wanted to be a baseball announcer. That's what I wanted to do. I thought, how cool would it be to just watch a baseball team, talk about it, and get paid for it? What kind of great job is that? So as I'm going up through high school and then through college, that's all I wanted to do. And I studied broadcasting to be a broadcaster. And also, by the time I got to high school age, and we're talking 1974, which was my freshman year in high school, I was exposed to pro wrestling. And that quickly became one of my other loves, although baseball was still my first love. So I got a job out of college and in radio. Still wanted to be a baseball announcer, got a baseball announcing job. And then it just so happened in 1982, I got a job in 81 with a baseball team. And then I was hired away by another baseball team in the minors in 82. And this team was owned by Jim Crockett Promotions. And I basically let Frances Crockett, who is the sister of Jim and David and Jackie Crockett, know that, hey, I grew up in the Virginia and I watched Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. I would love to get a shot at being a wrestling announcer. And I stayed on her for about a year and a half. And finally they gave me a shot, and here I am today. Kind of. That's kind of the Reader's Digest version of that. But I was very fortunate that my love of baseball got me a baseball job, and I just happened to fall in with the exact right people to be able to move into wrestling. So it all worked out quite well. And then, of course, Jim Crockett Promotions was bought by Turner Broadcasting, and I ended up working with them for a while. And I'm very, very, when I think back on my career, I feel very fortunate. The word I feel blessed is just way overused now, but I feel very fortunate and blessed, I guess, to have the road that I've had, and being able to get back into it now, and being able to hook in with people like Dirk and Source Point and Drina and everybody who's worked on this book with me. I just feel like I'm one of the luckiest people ever to be able to go back and now take a look at this story that I kind of told you in more detail, though, and with illustrations, being able to tell the story of how I got from really a small town, and we're talking 900 people, small town,
wow,
redneck in the middle of the mountains of Virginia, Western Virginia, and how I landed here. So it's I never thought it was a great story. Dirk always said he thought it was a very good story. I never thought it was a great story. But after looking at it in the all the things that we've seen leading up to the book being published, it is really kind of a cool story. And I'm not really trying to toot my own horn there, but it is.
No, absolutely. I mean, just kind of a weird thing. Like I personally was never like a wrestling fan, ever. Sure. Most of my friends were. Like obviously that was a huge thing, but I knew your name. You know what I mean? Like wow. That, like I don't know why I knew you. Know what I mean? Like as a kid, I have no idea why I knew who Tony Schiavone was. Yeah, because I didn't watch wrestling.
Oh yeah, I know him. It's that shitty announcer. I know who he is. Okay,
it wasn't. Yeah, that could have been it, but I don't think that's what it was. It was just it was just such a huge. You know what I mean? I knew who Hogan was. I knew who Macho Man was, and I knew Tony Schiavone. Like I knew that name in the mix of wrestling, even though I myself wasn't a wrestling fan. You were just larger than wrestling. Which is that's a huge thing in any sort of commentary. You know what I mean? Like I knew what was the guy from the Cubs? I knew that guy, Harry Carey.
Harry Carey.
I knew that guy. You know what I mean? Other than that, I don't think I could name many other commentators like that. So that's a huge thing.
I had one of those, and I have one of those. And by the way, Tony Schiavone is my real last name. My first name is Noah. My middle name is Anthony, named after my father. So we wouldn't have two Noahs in the house. They called me Tony, being short for Anthony. So that is my real name, and it's kind of a name that when you hear, It's not like Dirk Manning, or so it's
No,
not
your name's
a
way
regular.
bigger.
Yeah,
It's
it's not a regular name, and it got to the point, and it doesn't always happen that way. But if you listen throughout the years that I did announcing, and especially holding the microphone and doing what we used to call and still call interviews, I'm nothing more than a mic stand for those guys, and I get that, and I enjoy that. But people don't say Tony. People say Tony Schiavone. It's like they say my entire name, or they don't say Schiavone. They say Tony Schiavone. And so that's kind of like been out there for quite a while, so I can understand it. It's not as catchy as Harry Carey, but it's been out there enough to where people would remember it.
Well, it's interesting because like your name is a title, in a way, and you're right. It's very fascinating to think about it that way.
Yeah.
It's like not only is your name Tony Schiavone, but you are Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, it's a title, and the title says "Don't fuck with me." It's basically what it says.
Absolutely.
Mine says Dirk Manning says I have to write comic books, be a used car salesman, or fight vampires. So I chose the path of least resistance. So I thought by being
Very good.
You fight. I'm sure you fight many vampires as well. In your
Well, I don't want to draw attention to that. We're here to talk about the comics.
That's awesome. So like it's just crazy that you just wanted to be the sports commentator just as a child. It's not a common thing for people to want. So I guess that kind of worked out great for you.
And listen, I think in many ways that I'm lucky that I'm at the age that I am. I think I got into it when before ESPN was a thing, and I think I got into it before the genre, if I can call it that, or the vocation was so competitive. When I started wrestling announcing, there weren't many wrestling announcers. And now, everybody not everybody, but there's a lot of people out there like to be a wrestling announcer. They even the WWE used a guy from ESPN to do their announcing somewhat. So I got into it when it really probably wasn't that cool to be a wrestling announcer. I didn't care. And the job in the market wasn't that competitive. If I would have graduated from college, let's say in 2019, it may be a different thing to try to break into the business.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I think I'm very lucky for when I started, which was the 80s.
Yeah, you also had Mean Gene Okerlund back then too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Gene I worked with Gene for quite a while, and there was Gene, there was Gorilla Monsoon, Bob Cottle, Lance Russell, Gordon Soley, Jim Ross, who became the most famous and best announcer ever in wrestling, and I was just kind of a part of that, but there weren't many of us that would do it or could do it. David Crockett was another one. So I think it's timing. I think my whole life's been timing. My God. If you take a look at some of the things that have happened to me in my life, it's how I got from baseball to wrestling. It's just timing. How I got back into wrestling is just timing. It's just amazing. It blows my mind when I think about it. And that's what I think is going to make this so good, make this graphic novel so good.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, and I know you don't like to give yourself credit, but it may have been easier then, but a lot of the reason it may be harder now is because someone like you popularized that title. So now people, I'm sure there may have been people you aspired to be, but there was no Tony Schiavone before Tony Schiavone. So no one had to aspire to be that.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. I think one of the things I've always been able to do, and this is one of the things that AEW uses me for, is that I can do commentary and I can do the interviews. And that was not always the case. Gordon Soley could do that, but back in the WWE heyday, Gorilla Monsoon did the commentary and Gene Okerlund did the interviews.
Yep.
Or JR did the commentary and Doc Hendricks did the interviews, or someone in the WWE. And I do both, so I think it's helped my career that way. But being the age that I am at age 63, and this being professionally, 2020 was my best year ever professionally, ever.
Wow.
And I feel bad about that because 2020 was probably the worst year that we've ever had collectively. And now with this magazine coming out, with this graphic novel coming out, and we're starting at Astronomicon coming up in August, on August 20th. I feel that maybe 2021 is going to even be better for me. And in the midst of all that's gone wrong in the country, I'm prospering professionally, and that blows my mind.
Yeah, that's good for you, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because of the fact that obviously we didn't know 2020 was going to turn into 2020.
Right.
I guess when we started working on Butts and Seats,
Right.
And as a result, what happened was myself, Tony, our esteemed editor, Regina Joe, Mike Dawkins, our head of talent relations, and Dave Silva. We're still not sure what he does, but
He does nothing. Okay.
but he hits record. But we would have these Zoom calls, every couple weeks, every other week or so, give or take, every couple weeks, working on this book for about a year. And because we're all so geographically diverse, we inevitably would have had the meetings to write the book on Zoom anyway. But it really became kind of like a personal as well as professional high point during some dark times that we could all get together and get together on Zoom for a couple hours and just, like we were doing at the beginning of the show here, just busting chops and laughing and working on the book and going over art and stuff and having that camaraderie via Zoom really was a highlight of 2020. But like Tony said, it feels weird to say that man, we had a lot of fun with that and making this book and things like that. And for me personally, when things did get depressing and dark and things like that, it was like, oh, we got another Zoom call coming up and next week or whatever, and it was cool. And now, like I said, as we're going to be releasing the book towards the end of 2020 here and going into 2021, and even getting into the second half of 2021 with the book out, and then getting into 2022 when the book is everywhere. I'm very excited for the fruits of our labor to be seen by everybody and get out there and freely be able to discuss the book in more detail and see all the work that not only we put into it as our internal team, but the design work that SourcePoint Press has done and the 24 artists involved in this book, all the work that they did. It's just, I'm exceptionally excited. The hardest part of doing something like this is the waiting. And people that know me and are familiar with my work and the way I market know I like to tease things out. Like we joked earlier, 4 years ago, talking about Haunted Highlands, about how I couldn't say much. Right. And I'm in that weird spot right now where we can say a little bit, but we're waiting for the actual book to drop in a couple of months. And I'm really excited. I'm very, very excited about the future and very grateful for all the time we had together making this book and seeing what comes next.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And you guys... So after all that working together and linking up, and I want to talk about that too, but you guys actually for the first time during this whole process recently just met in person at that AEW event, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was at Double or Nothing. We had a fan fest. It was kind of fan fest that was put together kind of on the spur of the moment, and it was very successful. And I was there with Dirk and Drina. I think Travis was with us. Is that right?
Yep. Travis McIntyre. Yep.
Yeah, Travis McIntyre. And we met people and shook hands, and I met Dirk for the first time, and I wasn't disappointed. He was every bit the person that I expected him to be. You can fill in the blanks to that one, whatever.
Right. I was waiting for that one, that soft volley.
Here comes boom.
Yeah, just too easy.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, and unfortunately, we didn't really get to sit down and have dinner. I know you guys want to meet it, but those pay-per-views are like the whole weekend's crazy. I worked till like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and so I didn't have a chance to get together with them socially, with the exception of sitting there and then going backstage and letting them meet some of the guys and meet Tony Khan But we got to meet for the first time, and I'm really, really excited about. I've pushed the idea to Dirk that there needs to be a superhero that is a wrestling announcer by day and is a superhero by night.
There you go.
Hint. And
I've got to call into JR.
Yes. Yeah, I can see JR with a mask and a cape on. I can see that. Okay.
Hey, that sounds like a great spinoff to Hope, though, Dirk.
Well, there you go. Right, exactly. We can have Tony being there as a superhero or villain. I'll let all of you decide which would be more appropriate with his. Now that you can see through his podcast and things like that, the true Tony Schiavone coming through.
That's awesome.
With his sidekick Bug. Yeah. I said I would make a book about Bug in a second.
Yeah.
Bug is a superhero. Tony's a faithful companion and dog. You guys can't see it on the through the audio, but he's never far from Tony's side.
It's with me everywhere. Yeah.
But we talked about that, and you're right. And we'll hope to next year coming out and things like that. Maybe we'll get a Tony Schiavone cameo in there of some sort. I mean, someone's going to have to get punched in the face at some point, I hope. So might as well. We can make this happen, Tony. I promise. We'll get Mike Dawkins on the phone right now. Seal the deal.
Yeah, I can do without that.
That's awesome. That's super cool. So, obviously, there's tons of stories in the book, so I don't want to talk about all the crazy things that have happened. But with Astronomicon coming up, you guys are both going to be at Astronomicon. It's going to be your first convention together. I have to bring up, obviously, Mick Foley's going to be in the building, too.
Sure.
The book is actually named after, like, that whole thing. Like,
right.
It's like, first of all, I want to hear, like, obviously, I know that this is in the book. You guys have already said this story's in the book, but, like, I just want to hear it from you, like, what kind of happened there and, like, how it became such a legendary story. And have you been at you've never been to a convention before like this, so have you guys been together since that? Yeah,
we have. We the last WrestleMania that was in Orlando, which probably would have been 2017. I worked WrestleCon, and I was at the hotel, the WWE hotel, and I can't remember what I was doing there. I was waiting for Bruce Pritchard, I think, for something. I was waiting for Bruce. And Mick walked in, and I went, Mick. He went, yeah. I said, hey, how you doing, buddy? He said, and he stared at me, he said, your name's on the tip of my tongue. And I said, and of course now we're talking, I've been out of wrestling for like 17 years, by 16 years by that time, right? Yeah. And I said, really? My name's on the tip of your tongue? That'll put butts in the seats. And he just laughed. It's, oh, good God. So yeah, I look forward to seeing him. It was one of those things where you do what you're told to do, and professionally you do it. You have regrets, and I think it's become quite a talking point among wrestling fans, especially wrestling fans who like bad things to happen to people, and there's a lot of those people out there. Just go on Twitter, and I think it's become such a talking point with them because it was one of the things that you can point to that kind of turned the tide in the Monday Night Wars. And if I think about it, hell, if you're going to feel that I had that much of an impact in the wrestling shows, well, then good. Then maybe I was doing my job.
Right.
Yeah, that was actually. Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
If I would have said something like that, and everybody said, shit, that's just Schiavone. But I said it, and people went, whoa. So I had some sort of impact. And I said it, about a friend of mine who I've worked with as Cactus Jack for many years, and who is just a legend in this business. And I'll tell you the same way I told the people at the WWE when they brought me up to do an interview with me for their network years ago. I think it was 2015 they did. I said, yeah, I'd do it again. If I'm told by Tony Khan to say something about the WWE, we'll never do that. Tony would never do that. But if I was told to say something about the WWE, I would do it, because that is your freaking job. And any announcer that says they wouldn't have, baloney. Absolutely baloney. That's your job, to do what the promoter says to do. So right. I did.
And that's that night is actually a whole chapter in the one of the 10 main chapters in the book. And it's funny because, we talk about now looking back the historic precedence of that moment, and how I would argue it's probably the most famous, if not one of the two most famous announcing incidents in all professional wrestling. I mean, not incidents is the right word, but calls. The two most famous calls in professional wrestling. And the other one, I would actually, ironically, in my opinion, would also involve Mick Foley when he got thrown off the Hell in a Cell.
Yes, absolutely.
Between the butts and seats and that, those two calls, I think, are like the two most definitive calls in the sport. And when we were working on the book, we didn't have a title for it yet. I had kind of a working title for it, which was very on the nose and very pretentious. And I remember kind of talking to to Travis and to Drina and stuff like that, and maybe even Dawkins. And I said, what do you think Tony will think about the title Butts and Seats? And I said, the reason being because the whole book is literally about Tony putting butts in seats from when he's young, buying tickets to wrestling for his family, to being a commentator and an announcer, and then coming back to AEW, and that connection, And I said, really thematically, it sounds so pretentious to say, what is a writer thematically? It really works. And I'm like, but the downside is it starts with the word butts. So then when I finally kind of broke the ice with Tony, and I said, what do you think about the name Butts and Seats? But they will call it Butts and Seats, the Tony Schiavone story. And Tony had to think about it a little bit, and I'd like to think the name has grown on him. But I think definitively, I mean, it's not only a moment that's so connected to Tony's career, but like I said, I think it also just, when you read the book, you see that's really the theme of the book is putting butts in seats. So past the incident itself, it's just that's been Tony's whole career.
Yeah, I didn't really at first want that to be the name, because I didn't want everyone to think about it was just that moment, right. Because it's more than that. But they talked me into it. It's a catchy name.
So it grew on you? Has it grown on you now?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right.
7 out of 10,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted Captain America as a wrestling announcer. That was what I wanted, but I didn't get it.
You end up getting that cover though on the Kickstarter exclusive.
Yes, isn't that tremendous?
Right.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the comic itself as a congratulations gift.
Yes, you sure did. As a matter of fact, hang on a second. This I know you can't see it. You guys can see it, but
I can see it.
Yeah, how about that? Dirk asked me, he said, what is the one comic cover that you would like to have with your face on it? I said, it's the Captain America one. Mm-hmm. King Kirby is back and greater than ever. Mad Bomb. And so Dirk purchased this for me, which means a lot to me. And so, yeah.
And Scott James, illustrated that cover, did a very nice job on it. He's one of the artists in the book, did really, really nice job on the cover. And yeah, it was fun. It's a fun Kickstarter because, and you guys know, I mean, I've run multiple Kickstarters, and I really feel it's important that on a Kickstarter that you give the fans that are the people supporting the book something exclusive. So that'll be the only way you can get the Captain America homage cover, is the people that pre-order the hardcover through the Kickstarter. And then the other cover, by tying it all together, Marina Pascosta, who illustrated Haunted Highons, is also an absolutely breathtaking, fantastic cover. I love that cover so much. It's like whenever you do a book like this, it's like you love everything equally in different ways. So you got the really bombastic Captain America, Tony Schiavone moment. And then we got the other cover, which is the bombasticity, whatever.
Bombasticity. There you go.
Happening around Tony, just the pure chaos swirling around him of everything going crazy. But so yeah, having Scott James do the Kickstarter cover, and then Ring Award nominated Marina Pascosta doing the traditional cover. Yeah, it's cool, man. It's really exciting. So
I know you guys have been doing a lot of podcasts and promotion lately. You've told the story a million times, but you haven't told it here yet. Obviously, before you got linked up with Twisted, you're mainly known for horror. And Tony, obviously, people have approached you about a book before. What was it that kind of brought you guys together to decide, okay, let's do it together. Let's make it a graphic novel. Let's get Dirk involved and you writing essentially an autobiography graphic novel. How did that whole process come about for you guys?
Well, it started with Mike Dawkins. We've mentioned Mike before. Mike is my attorney, and Mike is very getting well known as an attorney in the wrestling business. He represents a number of wrestlers and has done a bunch of trademarks.
The gimmick attorney.
The gimmick attorney is what he's called. And so Mike and Dirk know each other because they're both from Toledo, and they've known each. I don't know how you've known each other, but I'm sure you can tell that side of the story, Dirk. But Mike came to me and he said, "Listen, did you ever think about doing a graphic novel or a comic book about your career?" And I never had. I'd been talked to a few people about doing a book about my life, and everybody I talked to said, "Man, it's a lot of hard work, and you got to remember a lot of stuff." And so I said, "Okay." Well, I just kept putting it off, and then Mike Dawkins comes to me and he said, "Would you like to do a graphic novel?" And I said, "You know what? That sounds pretty appealing to me." And he said, "Well, I got this guy that's probably one of the best writers out there of comic books, and I'll get you hooked up with him, and I think you guys will work well together." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Well," then a week later he said, that guy's not available, so let me hook you into Dirk Manning."
It's like a freight train. It's like your car stalled out on the track.
I saw Dirk shaking his head.
And you see the train coming, and there's nothing you can do.
And I said, "Oh, I've heard of him." And I said, I can't do anything with him unless Drina Joe's involved. And he said, "Okay, well, I'll get in touch with her too." So that's how it really happened, because Mike and Dirk know each other quite well. And he's the one that really orchestrated this whole thing.
Yeah. Mike, I've known Mike for many, many years. In fact, gosh, here's something I don't think I've talked about on any of our other appearances. I first hired Mike fairly early in his career when I had an online comic that was being hosted by MTV's website at the time. They had a subsection of their website called MTV Geek, and I had a fantasy comic with my buddy Lynn O'Grady, who's also in Bucks and CT illustrates the Bobby Heenan bonus chapter, called Far Seeker. And I've always been very, very particular and believing in the strength of contracts. Obviously, ultimately, anybody can argue about anything in a contract, and you can litigate anything. And but in a perfect world, being the idealist that I am, I'd like to believe that if two people sign a piece of paper and have everything written down, that there'll be some functional level of agreement on it. Point being, when MTV Geek wanted to host my comic I was doing with Lynn O'Grady, Far Seeker, on their website, I wanted to make sure that we had in writing that they were only getting to distribute the comic. They weren't going to have any ownership of it. I was good with the people running that section of MTV at the time, but we all know people get fired, people move on. So I hired a young, fresh-faced Mike Dawkins to review the contract with Viacom to make sure that it would delineate they only had distribution for this amount of time, blah, blah, blah. Years pass, we do it. Years pass, the comic runs at MTV, cool. I got to hold the microphone that Kurt Loder and all these other famous VJs held at the time at a show. I think it was a C2E2, as a matter of fact. And go separate ways. Years later, in working on the book that became the Halloween Comic Fest book with Source Point Press, The Adventures of Cthulhu Jr. and Dastardly Dirk, Mike Dawkins was friends with Scoot McMahon, who's the illustrator and co-creator of that book. So him and I connected again. And Mike, and I, hit it off and started talking more and more. We started seeing each other at cons more and more again at that point. And Mike found out that I was a very big, pretty much lifelong pro wrestling fan. I had a brief lapse, I think like a lot of people do. When I was in college, I was just really busy and couldn't follow it as much as I wanted to. But Mike, much like he did with Tony, came to me and said, "Hey, how would you feel about writing a comic book with Tony Schiavone?" So, we joke around that Mike Dawkins is the head of talent relations, but he really is, because he's the one that kind of negotiated this deal together. I think Mike's original plan was for me and Tony to talk at C2E2 in what would have been 2019. I think that was the last C2E2 before the pandemic. I had a pretty substantial family emergency come up. I had to fly down to Florida, and had to bow out of the show at literally the 11th hour. So when Tony and I couldn't meet in person at that point, Mike reached out and said, "Hey, kind of want to do this thing with Tony." We all met up on Zoom, hit it off really well, brought in editor Adrena Joe, talked to SourcePoint Press, Travis McIntyre, who's the CEO of SourcePoint Press, also a huge wrestling fan. We mentioned him earlier. He was down at AEW's Double or Nothing with us. Struck the deal, signed on the dotted line, and we got started. And the rest is history.
That's all. Yeah, who says no to Tony Schiavone, right?
I came close.
Frequently.
I have a list.
Just a couple.
Chris Jericho's next book could be, the list of people who said no.
Uh-oh.
But I mean, it's one of those things where obviously working with Tony, there's a lot of value in that. But I also wanted to make sure I was the right person for the job. Like you said, I have worked with Twisted and continue to work with Twisted. I've worked with the Harp Twins. So working with real people with established brand, with their identity being an established brand, is not unfamiliar to me. But in the case of the Harp Twins and Twisted, I was doing something fictional. Kind of like what Tony and I joked about earlier, like them as superheroes to some extent.
Yeah.
So doing an autobiographical comic's a whole different animal. But Tony does have a fascinating story. I think his story is just absolutely incredible. To go from a fan of wrestling to being one of the most well-renowned, influential, needle-moving, handsome, golden-voiced people in all of professional wrestling.
Yikes.
A person that made wrestling what it is today.
Oh, that's bullshit.
An upstanding, even-keeled, stalwart character. No, it like I said, Tony's story is fascinating, and that's one of the things I'm most excited about in the comic. Is I very strongly suspect that even people who are not wrestling fans are going to become very endeared, very entranced, enraptured, if you will, with this story.
You are so full of shit tonight.
Well, see, it would be too on par for me to continue just to give you grief like you're giving to me. So I'm doing the opposite. See, I'm doing like the judo technique of like directing your own energy back at you.
Okay, all right.
But in all seriousness, I mean, Tony's story is fascinating, and this is a guy whose fandom turned into a career, and to kind of use another wrestling cliche about the American dream, but this is it, and his story is just really fascinating. I can't wait for people to see it. I can't wait for people to see the way we used different artists to tell each chapter of the story and of his life. And I do really, in all sincerity, I strongly suspect that even non-wrestling fans are going to really find a lot to enjoy in this book, despite the fact that it's about Tony Schiavone.
There you go. And penned by Dirk Manning.
No, but that's all. And, to give credit to Tony again, I guess, something I know that you, like Dirk was a big about when the Haunted Highlands thing came about, for people that were already fans of you and your writing. You went and basically researched them, and you wanted to know that you weren't doing some sort of vanity project, which I think is the same thing you kind of said about this situation. But obviously they're great stories, they're fun stories, and they're even better animated. I have the Ash Can that you guys put out, so I've read that one story. But yeah, it's fun stories. Obviously there's some ups and downs in there, but like put it into drawings and animated, and I guess not, you know what I mean. But it's good to look at, and it's a fun story. So yeah, all people will enjoy it, and for people that think it's not some sort of vanity project,
and that's exactly it. I mean, we sit here and riff back and forth, but Tony's and I'm saying this with complete sincerity. There's not going to be a punchline when I say this, just for the record. Tony is a very humble guy, and he's very down to earth, and that's one of the things I think that really comes through, and telling the story kind of through his voice, and putting that together, is that this never was a vanity project. This was not a thing where Tony is not a guy who puts himself over. Tony has made a career of putting other people over. And, and that was my one caveat. And I said this to Mike. I said, I don't know Tony personally, but I said, if this is something where it's going to be a guy just putting himself over for 150 pages, I just don't want to get wrapped up in that. But Tony's sincerity and truly his story itself is so fascinating. It was really a cool thing to do. And I'm super excited for people to see it. I really am. I like I said, this is the hardest part because we're so close to the book dropping, but I have to keep my mouth shut a little bit longer. But it's really something special. It really is.
So for you, Tony, I want to talk about the book and the artist. I know we can talk about the artist, but like what Dirk just said about how most of your career was spent putting other people over and putting butts in seats for other people, essentially. I mean, even though it was your job, is it a different dichotomy for you now to start promoting what is now your metaphorical butt in seat, I guess? Like, you're trying to put butts in your own seats now? Is that what is that like for you?
Yeah, it really started when I met Conrad in 2017, and he had an idea for us to do a podcast. And then branching off from that podcast, we started selling merchandise, which blew me away. And then from there, we started doing shows, stage shows at comedy clubs. So now my name was kind of on the marquee, so to speak, and it was very uncomfortable for me to do that. And now moving forward to this, it's still very odd. It's really odd. And it's like Dirk says, I was taught what the job of wrestling announcers are. And thanks to nostalgia and thanks to kids that grew up in the 90s,
you're welcome.
When I hear, voice of my childhood, right? I kind of get it because I know how big nostalgia is right now, and has been. And fortunately, again, I grew up or started wrestling. Some of the great wrestling announcers years and years and years ago, you're not going to see a lot of their work, but all of my work's available out there, so you can see it and you can go back and relive the moments when you were growing up and watching Monday Nitro or watching World Championship Wrestling back in the 80s. So I got very fortunate that here I am in 2021 making some money. It's difficult for me to say, making some money off my name, and as well as making money, working for AEW. So.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because that prompted a thought. In one of the early chapters of the book, when we first talk about Tony going to work for Jim Crockett and Crockett Promotions, I want to say it was Big Bill Ward, and we were trying to find video of him, and it was exceptionally difficult. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the, or even find photos, of like certain, we finally found something, but I think even Silva was digging on that one. I think Silva finally even did some work, and we were all digging around trying to find it. But yeah, some of the announcers of yesteryear, it's just not out there. It's like when you talk to kids nowadays about a time before the internet. It's like you talk to little kids and they don't believe there was a time before the internet. And I was telling my nephew the other day, it's like, oh yeah, I couldn't. It was very hard for me to be friends with this person because they lived long distance. Like, what do you mean? I said, well, it was like I couldn't just pick up the phone and call them. It was long distance. And I really had no clue. My nephew had no clue what I was talking about. Paul may not know what I'm talking about right now. See, there was this time when you could only call with a certain radius, but
I know.
No, it's fascinating that now all of our work is out there and things like that. And honestly, even in my own career, which the level of my success in my industry is obviously not comparable to Tony's, but I tell people all the time, my comics career was made by MySpace. MySpace truly launched my comic career because I was able to talk to horror fans everywhere. I didn't even target comic book fans because most comic book groups were about superheroes, which I didn't write. But I started marketing my work to horror fans. I would go on like the horror groups on MySpace and like, by the way, the new Nightmare World story is now done online. You can check it out at nightmareworld.com, blah, blah, blah. And the internet launched my career. Well, with Tony, the internet gave, I guess, in a way, you a whole second career or a second boost in the arm, I guess. A boost.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I've been at the right place at the right time. I really have. It's overwhelming at times. It really is to think about it. So I try not to. I just try to do my work. And, Dirk will ask me, can you do this for us? And I'll go, yeah. And he asked me to do a video for him tonight. And I really feel awkward about doing a video promoting myself. I do. It's not in my makeup to do that. But I've done a couple, and hi, I'm Tony Schiavone, and be sure to join me at Astronomicon. To me, it's full of shit. It's easier for me to say, hi, I'm Tony Schiavone. Make sure to join Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, at Astronomicon. Right, Kenny? And put the microphone in front of his mouth. So this whole thing it's just weird for me.
That's awesome, though. I mean, for real, as weird as it may be, I still want to say congratulations, because some people may not get, as they say, your flowers. So it's good to see that you're getting your flowers, your well-deserved flowers, while you can still enjoy them. So that's awesome.
I'm not bringing you flowers to Astronomicon, Tony.
Yeah, you are. You damn right you will.
Some skunk weed.
There you go.
Poison ivy.
Uh-oh. Skunk weed. Skunk weed. What kind of redneck shit is that?
That was a West Virginia joke is what that was.
I'm going to buy you some skunk weed.
Skunk weed. When you get to Astronomicon, that joke will be even funnier. Mark my words.
Yes. Yes.
You guys will have that before your karaoke session. That's crazy. So obviously, the Butts and Seats, the Kickstarter ended. It was extremely successful.
Yeah,
I'm a backer of it.
Thank you.
About the so even without the great content of the Tony Schiavone story, this book in itself is already like a huge masterpiece. What you mentioned earlier, I think 12 artists or more.
24.
24.
24 artists in this book.
That's just crazy in general. Like, is that some sort of world record? It should be.
I'm sure. I think Nightmare World had 25. Just specifically, I wanted to make sure we didn't cross that threshold and have Tony beat my record.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's good about that? All those artists is, and I'm sincere about this. They can all enjoy the success with us.
Yes.
And I've yet to meet really any of them. We plan all to get together, maybe for a Zoom chat or something like that. I've yet to meet them, but in the face of the pandemic, in the face of maybe people not getting the work that they should or they wanted, at least there were 24 artists that helped on this and got some work and got their work out there and their craft out there, and I hope it helps their career. I don't know if I'm probably most of them have a great career already. I'm not sure, but I'm glad we had a lot on there. I'm glad it was a collaborative effort instead of just like one artist or two artists, that would give a lot of people a chance to work during the pandemic.
No,
yeah, and that was a big part of it too. And I love the anthology style of storytelling and working with different artists and things like that. And it was so fun to me. And Tony, I don't know, I don't know if we've ever really talked about this with this level of detail. Seeing the different interpretations of Tony, you know, and even though obviously we moved throughout his life to an extent, but even with the pinups and stuff, the chapter headers we did, just how different people would interpret, Tony different ways or focus on different features he had and things like that. I mean, to me, I love stuff like that, but I'm also not the one being drawn by 24 different people. So
sure, yeah. Well, I thought it was a blast seeing all the different drawings of me. Now, my wife Lois would look at the drawings of her and she would say, "That doesn't look like me." And I said, "Well, it's a freaking comic book drawing. It ain't you." Okay.
Right.
So, okay.
It's artistic interpretation.
It's an interpretation. Exactly.
We tried to tell Lois who could truly capture your radiance and beauty.
No one could.
No one could, and that helped.
And no one would want to.
I don't know. Well, now that Lois was the star of a certain pay-per-view that was just on the other day. I don't know.
Yeah, how about that? Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was amazing. The Lois. Yeah. Again, Tony Schiavone and company becoming cross-promotional in their efforts with the Lois.
It's funny. Just an inside little story about that. Somebody sent me a screenshot of Charlotte Flair raising the belt, right, and being crowned the Raw Women's Champion or whatever. So they sent me that screenshot, and the signed Lois Rules held up in the background. This is no lie. I pulled that up on the phone. I handed it over to Lois. We were watching TV. I said, "Look at this." And here's what she said. She went, "What do I care about Ric Flair's daughter? Why would I care about what? Look at it." I said, "Look at the sign behind her." She said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. She completely missed the sign." And it was her name.
Was she at least impressed at that point?
Oh yeah, she was. Yeah, she really was.
That's awesome. So for people that don't know or haven't been paying attention about the book, like, so it's like it's an anthology style book. Different art. There's an artist for each story, and it's all stories about Tony Schiavone, but it's not. It's called, I guess it's called The Story of Tony Schiavone, but this is only your wrestling career, right?
That's right. Well, it dips a little bit into the baseball career, and it dips a little bit into what I did in the 17, 18 years between 2001 and 2019. So it dips into what I was doing. It's kind of like my professional career, but since my professional career is mostly pro wrestling, that's basically what it's about. It's about loving wrestling, getting into it, getting disenchanted with it, getting out of it, doing things to keep my house and keep my family afloat, and then getting back into it and enjoying what I'm enjoying today, which is AEW, working for the greatest boss in the world, Tony Khan, and I say that sincerely, and enjoying being able to see myself in a comic book, in a graphic novel.
Yeah, we wouldn't say it's really Tony Schiavone's life in wrestling.
Basically, that's what it is.
From the time that he first becomes a fan of wrestling, and then his time getting out and even coming back in. So, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Told through 14 chapters and 10 additional pinups, narrated pinups, with a variety of who's who of established and up-and-coming artists, all published by our close personal friends at SourcePoint Press. And if you missed the Kickstarter, because I know we're running short on time, if you missed the Kickstarter, if you hurry, you can still pre-order the book by going to buttsandseatscomic.com. That's buttsandseatscomic.com. That was me channeling the great Tony Schiavone.
Wow, that's tremendous. That was really tremendous.
Look at 7 out of 10.
Wow. That's awesome.
Now,
so anybody
the
can
key,
pre-order it. There you go.
Yeah. The key to that, Dirk, and I need to teach you a few lessons.
Please.
The key to that is to be able to say that like you said it without sounding like you're full of shit. So that's
the next book we're doing with the next talent. It'll become very easy at that point.
That's awesome, man.
It's been a long 18 months, man.
Yeah, man. I'd like to think that this is going to open the door to more wrestling graphic novels, because there's a lot of people that have crazy good stories, and some great stories out there. And I hope this opens the door to it. I really do.
And there are other, and just for all the listeners out there, and there are other wrestling comics out there, but I'm very proud to say that thanks to the efforts of Tony and SourcePoint Press and our whole team, Butts and Seats, the Tony Schiavone story, which is available at buttsandseatscomic.com for pre-order for just a short time longer, is the highest funded wrestling comic book or graphic novel of all time.
There you go. Set the standard.
Record holder. We can now add record holder.
Record holder.
Schiavone's career.
Right.
The champ, if you will.
You got the belt. You got the belt, man.
Yeah, man.
Before he didn't want to have a belt. Now, Tony, you can have a Kickstarter, wrestling comic Kickstarter belt. Till someone else may get that from you.
That's all.
But I don't know. It's going to be tough to beat. But right now, you can live in the moment of being the champ.
so people can still pre-order essentially like the soft cover, same version from the Kickstarter.
That's exactly right. Yeah, go to buttsandseatscomic.com. You can pre-order the directly from SourcePoint. You'll be able to pre-order and have it immediately before it's available in comic shops or anywhere else. buttsandseatscomic.com. You can get the Butts and Seats graphic novel. And there's some other cool add-ons you can add on there. I think there's some other stuff on there as well. But yeah, people can go check that out.
There you go. Go pre-order it now. So is this? So I know you guys haven't announced like an official release date, but so this is coming out soon for the public. Is it going to be released as a trade, or is it going to be released individually as comics in the stories?
It'll be the whole graphic novel. It'll be available in comic book stores everywhere. It'll also be available through Simon & Schuster anywhere that carries graphic novels. You can go to Barnes & Nobles, anywhere books are sold. And we will be announcing the release date very soon. You always want to be careful on things like that because, there's shipping delays and things like that. But we do have an internal clock, I guess, if you will, on that.
But people will be able to put it on their pull list and order it from Diamond. And
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be in previews. They'll be able to order through Diamond. If people that don't have a local comic shop, they'll be able to go to, again, Barnes & Nobles or their local bookstores. As long as they carry graphic novels, Simon & Schuster will be distributing it. I believe there's a possibility that perhaps maybe even AEW will maybe have it. We'll see.
Yep, we'll see.
Details soon. Details very soon. But yes, it will be. It is sooner than later at this point. Is all I can. As we wind down, that's all I can officially say.
Will it be available for purchase at the Astronomicon?
Not that soon. Not that soon, but soon.
Am I out of line here by saying we're going to have preview editions for me to sign?
Now we have to. So
yes or no. I mean,
yeah. Okay. There's going to be. We're going to have copies of. Tony's going to have copies of the Ashcan there.
The Ashcan.
We'll be signing 8x10s and things like that.
Taking pictures.
He really likes to sign people's backs.
Yes, I do.
There you go.
Yeah,
especially when they're big, sweaty backs.
Oh, we got plenty of those here. We have.
The hairier, the better. But we will have copies of the Ashcan there. Also, I know we just announced. I got to get this plug in before we wrap this up. We're going to have the debut of Twisted Haunted High-On's Curse of the Green Book, #1.
Oh yeah.
At Astronomicon, and some very big announcements about that too. So it's going to be comic lovers heaven. You'll have, previews of Butts and Seats with Tony Schiavone, Haunted High-Ons with myself and Twisted. Just all kinds of comic goodness at Astronomicon at their new location in Ann Arbor in August. Super excited.
That's right. I'm super pumped. We'll be out there Saturday and Sunday. I was going to tell you, definitely save me a copy of one of those in case people start.
Yes, please.
You got it.
Grabbing one.
No problem.
I am in the Curse of the Green Book. Mariana drew me in there, and I seen the art. I got a sneak peek of it. So I want all the copies.
And it's in the first issue too. I'll tell you that right now. So
I seen it. I want all the copies.
Well, there's gonna be some very cool announcements coming about that very soon. That's all I can say at this time.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited for you guys. I could talk about Haunted High-Ons all night. I even made a post earlier, and I alluded to some animated excitement and some big announcements in New York Comic Con for you guys. Are you going to make it out to New York Comic Con too, Tony? Or
I hope to. We'll see. I don't know what my AEW schedule is like.
That's awesome.
Out that far. So
I'm excited to see you guys at Astro. I'm excited to see what happens with Tony Schiavone and Mick Foley spending a weekend together. That could make for interesting stories as well.
Yeah, should be good.
If only there'll be a Butts and Seats panel at Astronomicon. Maybe we can see what kind of shenanigans we can get into. But we'll see. Stay tuned. Details forthcoming.
Absolutely. I do want to ask you one more question. I guess it's been 4 years since I've asked you too, Dirk. I don't even know if we did it back then, to be honest.
Let's find out.
Tony's with wrestlers.
I can do both. Well, essentially, we do a lot of music, and we ask all of our guests the same awful question because we love it and we love to hear the answers. But essentially, you got 3 records that either inspire you, 3 albums that inspire you as a person, as a writer. Something makes you happy, something you listen to when you're sad. Maybe you punch the steering wheel too, or you cry alone. Whatever it may be, 3 albums you could not live without. What would they be?
Tony, you want to go first?
Yeah, it would be, first of all, be Neil Diamond's Hot August Night, the first live one. I know he had a couple of Hot August Night live albums. It would be that. It would be the first Kiss album with their face in the black background. And it would be Chicago at Carnegie Hall, that live album that came out in the in the late 60s, early 70s. Those would be, and that's a multi-album set, as you probably know, and so is Hot August Night. But those are my three that I have on my playlists on Spotify now, and listen to those. I mean, and Back in Black with AC/DC is a close, runner-up. And anytime I can hear a Keith Moon drum, I'll listen to that. But those three are the best.
You get the multi-album sets, you get the most for your money, so that works out.
That's right, exactly.
That's a good call. Gosh, I'm going to go real deep cut for my first one. There's a band called Mad Season, and it was lead singer of Alice in Chains, the guitarist of Pearl Jam, and the rhythm section of the Screaming Trees. So a lot of the 90s grunge bands, I guess, were like a better category. And they did one album called Above, and it is it's very bluesy influenced. And the only adjective I can use to describe it is haunted. It is just an incredible album. It's very bluesy. It's very cathartic. It's not like a really heavy album like you might suspect when I name, the guitarist of Pearl Jam, lead singer of Alice in Chains. It's just this bluesy, cathartic, haunted album. And I wrote almost all of Nightmare World listening to that album. So over the years, that was like my background music, right? Nightmare World. So Mad Season's Above would be one. Oh my gosh. I'm literally like, I have like CDs over here, and I'm trying to like look to decide what I would even pick. I mean, there's always so tough, especially like three. Definitely an album by Faith No More. Meg Patton is my favorite singer of all time, very versatile. I might have to. I'll go King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. But any Faith No More album would be very sufficient. And a third one, I would probably pick something by Metallica.
Well, I'm glad you pulled that list out of the toilet.
That's the guy that named Neil Diamond.
You haven't heard Neil Diamond's Hot August Night?
Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, that's much more Sweet Caroline, you dumbass.
Yeah. Liz, yeah. Anyway, I sat here. I was so kind with your crusty, dilapidated, quote unquote rock music, and I can't wait for karaoke, Tony. How are you going to shit on Metallica of all things? I mean, really,
I didn't shit on Metallica. I didn't. I just.
Okay. I was going to say. I mean, I understand that you have to go to your Google machine and look up these other albums. And,
I wouldn't waste my time on those two albums.
I'm going to be posting these songs on your profile for weeks. You're going to get random messages in the middle of the night. But yeah, something about Metallica, I guess, is at the moment. But the thing is, if you ask me this question tomorrow, it would be three different ones. Sadly. I'm a huge music guy.
We'll give you the.
If you ever drive in my car any long distance, the music I play is going to give you whiplash because it'll go from like all female Belgian choir to Machine Head to anything that's not Neil Diamond. So just all over the place.
That's perfect, man. Oh, that's totally awesome.
And my runner-up would be something by Twisted.
There you go. you got to throw them in there since you're writing their book.
I throw it in there because I enjoy their music.
I mean, I do too. It's funny. Speaking of that, I forgot. We told people we'd ask. We actually played it right before we started, so I was going to ask if you ever heard it. But that Insane Clown Posse song where they stab you in the eye, Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, that's the first time I had heard that.
Really? Ever?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
First time ever I'd heard that. I had heard that someone had told me, say, you're in an Insane Clown Posse song, and I went, that's great to know.
Good answer.
And then I heard it. It's not bad. Those two guys were when they worked for us in WCW were pretty cool guys. I really enjoyed working with them. So there you go.
Apparently they stabbed you in the eye, and they're
there you go. Well, they ain't the only one.
That's for Butts in Seats Part 2.
That's right. More butts, more seats.
More stabbing.
More stabbing. That's right. Well, Tony has been talking to me about doing a zombie comic, so a good eye stab would fit in wonderfully there.
There you go. Every superhero
Zombie.
gets a zombie version, so.
You know what? If I never see another zombie, it'll be too freaking soon.
There you go. Hell yeah, man.
And Dirk, I think you put out on one of your lame posts. I mean, one of your Facebook posts about this TV show that was out there. It was not Black Mirror. It was
Black Summer.
Black Summer.
Black Summer.
So I went, oh man, I got to check this out. Zombies, no thanks.
I still need to check that out.
You know what? I actually enjoyed it, despite the fact that zombie. Actually, if you were ever to read any of the books I sent you, Tony, that I've written, such as Right or Wrong, A Writer's Guide to Creating Comics, there is a whole section in the book about how people should not write zombie comics anymore. So I am with you there, my friend. That
it is overdone. It is like way overdone.
It is, but I really enjoyed Black Summer. I thought it was very good. Actually, a couple of years ago, there was a couple of very good zombie movies from Japan and Korea. Train to Busan. It's zombies on a train.
Okay. Which
that pitch does no justice to the truly emotional resonance of that movie.
I bet.
I'm being serious.
I'm sure you are.
And and One Cut of the Dead is also very good.
That's another thing I won't watch.
Yeah, I'm going to send you just many DVDs, and I'll label them all like Neil Diamond live in concert. Like, oh my God, this is great!
Live at the Hollywood Bowl. No, at the Greek Theater.
Live at Red Rocks. You put it in, just like yeah. No, but Black Summer was shockingly good, despite being a zombie thing. In fact, I didn't watch it for years because it's zombies. And I recently found out it's a prequel to was it Z Nation, which I have not watched either. But
okay,
for anybody that's not Tony, I do give Black Summer a high recommendation. Relentless, plummeting horror show.
There you go. I was going to ask you, man. I was going to ask you because obviously you're super busy writing comics. You got Butts and Seats coming out. We got Haunted Highons, Curse of the Green Book coming. I know you got another Tales of Mr. Reed down the line, and tons of other things.
In October.
That's crazy. Do you have
no zombies in that one either?
No zombies. Do you have time to read books? Are you a fan of comic books? And if so, what is there anything you're currently reading or anything new? I recently got really into comics, so.
I love everything by Eric Powell, who does The Goon, which does have zombies in it, although not in the way you might suspect. They're more like kind of like comedy background stuff. Eric Powell, The Goon. I mean, I'm sitting here in an office full of comics. I'm trying to go to what I bought recently. Mike Mignola's Hellboy stuff. Almost anything by Alan Moore I love. Junji Ito is a manga master of horror comics. The only comics I've ever read that have actually frightened me. I'm really looking forward to doing a comic with Britt Baker, Brits and Seats. That'll be really exciting if I ever get to do that. So DMD, if you're out there, holler at your boy. I'm kidding, by the way.
You need to leave her ass alone, dude.
Brits and Seats. Get him.
Especially now that she's hanging out with the guy from Cobra Kai, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was
incredible. Cool. No, so stuff like that. But honestly, I read a lot of creator-owned stuff. Source Point. I'm not saying this to be a company guy, but it's killing it. And right now, creator-owned books in general are getting such love across mediums. The Boys by Garth Ennis is a great comic. Invincible by Robert Kirkman, and Ryan Otley is a fantastic comic. So create their own stuff where they can make their own rules, and they don't have to put the toys back in the box when they're done. But yeah, I read almost every day. I have to have books now so I haven't read or I get squirrely.
Right. No, the comic book world's crazy, man. I feel like I've been missing out for even when we had you on, I didn't know much about comic books except for when Superman died and stuff like that. But now I'm entrenched with Something is Killing the Children and Nice House on the Lake and all kinds of
Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, does some incredible horror comics, like Lock and Key.
Yeah.
And Chef's Kiss. And that's a Netflix show now as well. So
everything is a Netflix show now.
Tell me about it. Whether they give the creators the proper due or not. But anyway, on that note, it was great talking to you guys.
Hell yeah, man! No, we look forward to seeing you guys at Astronomicon.
Absolutely.
We will be out there.
Yes,
so
sir.
save me whatever you guys have before it sells out. But
Put two of them aside, will you?
there you go. But yeah, we appreciate you.
Message us a few days beforehand. We'll make sure we get taken care of.
I will definitely do that. But yeah, we'll be out there. We'll see you guys there. And we look forward to everybody go pre-order the book, buttsandseatscomic.com. And yeah, man, thank you guys so much. And Dirk, hopefully we'll talk again before 4 more years. And Tony, obviously we'd always love to have you back as well, man. Thank you guys.
Anytime. Thanks.
Welcome
Thanks for your
to
time.
our
I
Replicon
appreciate
Radio family.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
You too.
All right,
Thank
Al.
you, guys.
Much love. Peace. Let me get this. No. They're muted. All right. We got to take a break.
Yeah.
If I can get this controller to work.
That was very, very interesting and very fun interview.
Yeah.
That'll probably be my favorite of the year. So we'll put that one in the awards for next year.
There you go.
Make a note.
Something going on.
I already got him. I already got a note made.
You made a note?
Uh-huh.
Dope. Hell yeah, man. Shout out to Dirk Manning, Tony Schiavone. That was super cool. I am literally just stalling because I cannot get my computer to work. So
Yeah, I was going to ask a question, but they just kept on going. I was going to ask him, Tony, what his favorite match, what's his most memorable match of all time was. But
hell yeah.
I can ask him that at Astro.
Absolutely. And when we have them back on, man, because now they're family.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take a quick break. If you guys are tuned in on YouTube, the stream's going to stop. We will be back up with some more fun. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to hear the short music break, head on over to repliconradio.com.